Hey, how are you?
Okay, the Plan Commission this November 10th, 2010 is called to order. We do, in fact, have a quorum. First order of business is approval of the October 13 minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 on the agenda is the proposed zoning text amendments. Mr. Dunkley?
Members of the Plan Commission, Bill Dunkley, Zoning Administrator. We have the item of the text amendment of the Downtown Plan zoning implementation on the agenda for you this evening, and there has been a staff review that we've undergone in the meanwhile. There is also the prospect of the map amendment, which is the other component of this zoning change, not an insignificant component, and it is the one for which we will be doing a mailing to all property owners affected. And it's been suggested that it may be beneficial to actually have done that communications within before this group takes action on the text amendment, and that seems to be reasonable. So that's for your consideration. I believe we also have at least one person who would like to speak on the content of the text amendment this evening.
We are to anticipate then in December, in our December meeting, we will take action on both the text and the map amendments. Is that correct?
The notice will be going out at the end of this week, and that will be a very significant notice in terms of the number of communications that are made. And so we believe that having a fully informed property owners and all those other stakeholders who are maybe affected, to have them fully aware of of the changes that are going on before action is taken on a significant part would probably be beneficial.
Then it gets to the council probably in the new year,
Yes.
2011,
That's right.
January. Very good.
So with that, I'll leave it up to any others who have comments to make on the materials as presented.
Mr. McGonigal, do you have some comments to make on the proposed changes?
Yes, I do.
Incidentally, if there are any members of the public that would like to speak tonight, I hope you've signed in, and we will call upon you shortly. Mr. McGonigal.
Mr. Updike, thank you. Members of the Commission. I met earlier this week, having reviewed the draft of the document that was put forward to you. I met with Dominic, and we went through a series of grammatical issues and clarifications and suggestions, and I think Dominic and Bill have reviewed those, and I believe that the large majority of those are going to be incorporated, which I thank you, and I think it makes for a much better document. One item that Dominic and I had discussed, he felt that the Commission should actually have some discussion on a little bit further. If we could turn to page 16 in the document, which is entitled 6 Above Grade Concealed by Habitable Floor Space.
Do we have some copies of that for those of us who didn't download the entire 45 pages?
Yeah, I left my computer at home.
Do we have it?
Maybe I can read you the two relevant portions.
We can share. We'll share.
We'll
You can have the
share.
staff.
I'll share here.
Take it back. You want a staff copy? We can share.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Under item 6A3, it says the facade of the floor space separating the parking structure from the street or open space must contain transparent windows. And on the second page, page 17, item 9, louvers required for air intake and exhaust must not be located on the public-facing facades unless otherwise infeasible. When infeasible, louvers may be minimized and architecturally integrated on public facades. The concern that I've got with these two portions, and I understand the desire to have parking concealed behind permitted uses. One of the prerequisites for parking structures is that you have natural ventilation and through ventilation. And that is typically done by louvers. To actually have glass facades blocking off all of the ventilation areas means that the developer or property owner is faced with a large expense of creating fans, ducts, exhausting it up through the building, losing floor area, which is, I'm sure, something that the city is not wanting to do because of the revenue generated by floor space. I've done several parking garages downtown where the requirements were such that we had an architecturally integrated facade with colored louvers, windows, and stuff like that actually fitted in with the architecture, which meant that I actually got the through ventilation that was necessary and did away with all the need for ductwork. So I was just wondering with these two clauses whether there was perhaps a better way in which we could meld them together and not limit the developer's choice, but actually still have the desired impact that we were actually looking for.
Mr. Dunkley or Dominic, do you have any comment on that? And would you like some time to study it?
I think the comments are well intentioned. I think we need to keep in mind that these are standards for achieving the bonus. The public benefits bonus is not for all projects. So that does narrow the scope somewhat. As far as the feasibility there, I think we would like to take that back and have a staff discussion and come back with a more reasoned recommendation.
Andrew, that makes sense to you, I take it?
Yes, it does.
Gentlemen? Mr. Scher?
I was just wondering if there are louvers that have some transparency that might satisfy the concern.
Typically, my experience have been louvers are relatively solid units, and when you talk about louvers, you talk about the free area, which is actually the space between the louver blades that allow you the ventilation. The more free area you require, the more area you require, the further away the louvers get, and therefore have a striated appearance. The closer you put them together, you more that you force the air to come through and present a much more solid looking view. So I think it's a balance between looking at the building regulations that talk about how much free area that is necessary to get the ventilation requirements that you need.
No, I was addressing the material the louvers are made out of, something that could be transparent or translucent.
I have not seen those. You need a relatively, to make them out of glass would be impractical. Plastic's going to denigrate once the sunlight's on it. So you're typically back to an anodized aluminium. You could lighten them up perhaps by having punched aluminum or sheet metal with holes in it in a grill or an architectural fashion, which could. The closest that I could think of with something that you're trying to see is if you think of a medieval castle and the moat gate type effect, if that were done in metal. So it's like a plaid, a tartan type impact. So that would give you some solid and a much greater free area that might be able to give you something of that nature.
So in December, we'll have something, I take it, to consider. Dominic, do you have some other changes that? No? I mean, Andrew, you did mention some other changes that you had talked about. Do you want to take that up now?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Right. Okay. I think the typos we should perhaps just ignore and go through that, because I think those will get done as we would progress through.
You're just talking about typos now?
Right. I mean, the word of instead of or, things like that. The word must instead of will. Though.
Okay. And you've talked to.
I've talked to Dominic about those.
And you both agree as to what those.
Right.
And in December, anything that we have changed, there'll be, as we've gone through this process, there's always been a part of the changes that we've made.
Oh, okay.
And we'll have that in there, even for the simplest of changes we make.
Okay. I did come across some substantive changes. And
Okay.
do you want to take on
Yeah,
page 11, for example?
Let me go
but
through
ahead.
these. Let me go through these and see if you
Okay.
guys.
Okay.
The first one is page 5 under development review, item B. Initiation, an applicant shall file an application with the Plan Commission on a form provided by the zoning administrator accompanied by such documents and copies of documents as the zoning administrator may require for processing the application. The discussion was whether we needed to spell out those documents and whether may require or should require or will require. The discussion was that this seemed a little nebulous and open for discussion, and I thought the object of this document was to try and avoid those types of issues.
Mr. Dunkley? I'm assuming you have something to say on this subject.
In practice, we actually have found issues going the other way, where a document needed to be updated or an application needed to collect more information, and that couldn't be done because the form was specified in the code. And so it's the ability to quickly react to changes in needs for information was, I think, an important one. And of course, we collect the information that's required, and that's necessary. The ability to be able to do that is, I think, really has us ask that not be included in such specific detail in the code itself.
Comments from commissioners on that subject? I would agree with you, Bill. You get more flexibility if you don't specify each and every document. But Andrew, you want to say something more on that subject?
I would have probably removed the word may, or changed the word may.
Mr. Duncan?
That's fine.
Change it to requires, put an S after.
Right.
Okay.
The next one is item C.
Can we all live with that,
Sorry.
commissioners? Okay.
Sorry. The next one is item C, 1. We talk about the applicant, notifying the applicant of any deficiencies or modifications necessary to perfect the application. I would also put in there that they should be notified that it is complete, because that way there is closure, so that nobody's hanging out there, and that you know that you're not going to be faced with any hurdles or anything else when you get to a commission like this or city council, and people say, well, you know, nobody told me it was complete, and, you know, I'm still hanging out there. It's just...
Mr. Dunkley?
The two are actually fairly synonymous. The word perfect is really the more common term for determining that a set of information is complete. But I don't have any problem. I think complete is more commonly recognized. That's they both have, as I said, the same meaning.
So you don't have a preference?
No.
Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts on the subject? So we'll go along.
I think it's nitpicky.
I think
I think that perfect is probably a better legal.
The way, from my upbringing, perfect is that you still have things to do to it.
you wanted an additional notification.
Right, right,
Not about the words.
right. I want to be told that it's done,
That makes sense.
that you can then move forward, and you know that you can move forward. There's no
Mr. Dunkley?
ambiguity.
Yeah, and the notice. I mean, there is always a notice when the application is ready to move forward. That's the intention. There's a communication if the application is missing some parts. Of course, there has to be.
So you do give notice once the application process is complete?
Oh yes.
Currently?
Once the application is complete, yes.
Do you have any objections to adding that language?
No.
Well, it seems to be the consensus among the commissioners that we can live with that particular change.
Thank you. Next page, page 6, item 3. Mailed notices. This is slightly different, I think, than the rest of the town, or the city, I should say, in that the number of people receiving notices is much greater, and therefore I think we're open to much greater scrutiny. And as a consequence, my thought on this was that mailed notices should actually have some form that it's recognized that the postage has been done and those have been sent, whether that's certified mail or in the term of receipts from the post office or something. I'm just concerned that with a large-scale development and people not actually receiving notices and then coming to a public hearing and standing up and saying, we haven't received public notices, I see that as a potential problem.
I think that's onerous. You know, I don't think there's any reason that we should certify notices. You know, you have your, you know, the best interests of the community, and you send out notices on good faith. It'll be posted in the neighborhood, it's posted online, so there's multiple avenues, and I just think that adds an extra step in expense that's just not required.
Mr. Widmeyer?
Yeah, I basically very much agree. That's the responsibility of the person responsible for making sure the notices are sent. The method by which they do that is what we hold them accountable for, and I think that's sufficient.
I could.
Mr. Dunkley?
Our internal practices are that, and thank you for recognizing what is a critical step and a critical piece of information in any application file that is subject to public notice, but we always make sure that the person carrying the mail down to the mailroom signs off on the fact that it was done and when it was done, because you only have to get asked one or two times whether did it actually happen and have no proof of that, you quickly learn how important that is. So we always have a sign-off on the mail actually being delivered to the delivery function. And after that, we assume that it's that they do their job and it does get delivered.
Mr. McGonigal?
I have no problem with that.
Then that particular request fails for want of consensus. And by the way, gentlemen, commissioners, it seems that we're going through this page by page, and if you have some of your own substantive changes, well, typographical or substantive, you might as well bring them up when we're on that particular page. So why don't you go ahead?
Page 8 is the next one. 61119, public benefit bonuses. I know Bill is a stickler for his grammatical and editorial comment, and the last sentence in the first paragraph contains public benefit twice and bonus twice. So that sentence, I think, needs a little reworking. I think it's easily done, but and I think it should probably say the individual's bonus formula specifies the amount of bonus available.
Well, why don't you read it for us as it presently stands?
I think it's fine with either way. So why don't you just
for my benefit.
It's like
Okay.
watching paint dry that we're sitting here going through grammatical issues.
Right.
So if you know, I don't think it substantively changes the meaning of the sentence.
Would you like me to read it?
Well, go ahead and read it as it stands.
The individual public benefit section's public benefit bonuses formulas specifies the amount of bonus available.
Mr. Dunkley, Dominic?
We'll tighten that language up.
Well, does it need tightening?
It's not so clear what it might mean.
So
I
perhaps
think
you can take a look
there's
at
an
it.
errant apostrophe there somewhere.
Okay. Okay, tighten that up then.
Item A1 underneath, only buildings that meet the green ordinance are eligible for public benefit bonuses. I've changed for to the word to receive.
That's fine on our end.
Item 2, bonus FAR.
Does
for-
any
Sorry.
commissioner have a problem with that suggestion? No? Seth? No?
I'm fine with that one.
Okay. Next.
Item 2 on the same section under B. Bonus FAR for a particular public benefit may not be awarded beyond the maximum amount specified for that public benefit specified in the maximum bonus column. I would take out 5 words for that public benefit specified. It clearly shows that it is specified. It is in the chart immediately below it, and I think is unnecessary.
Gentlemen? Mr. Widmer? It does seem to be a little bit redundant.
It's very specific.
Do you have a problem with that, Mr. Dunkley? Oh, okay. Okay, then we will accept that particular change.
Table 611-1-9B, above grade parking, which is, I think, the 7th line down. It says wrapped by habitable floor area.
What page are you on?
On the same page, immediately below the section, in the chart. The phrase habitable floor area, just excuse me while I find. If you now change to page 16, the top line, which is the definition of above-grade parking concealed by habitable floor space. As we had discussed, there are many things. To me, habitable space means residential. As we went through this, we realized that it could be a dwelling unit, it could be office space, retail space, and we added the word permitted uses. I would like to change and get rid of the word habitable floor space to permitted uses in section 6 and in this chart, because that covers all of the uses rather than just habitable space.
Mr. Dunkley?
I'd like the opportunity for us to go back through the permitted uses and see if that works.
Okay.
That not all permitted uses are,
Okay.
I think, fit the intention, but would like the
Okay.
chance to review that.
So
Otherwise, it's fine.
further study on that particular issue. Okay.
The other problem is permitted uses is a term of art, and habitable is broader than permitted uses. So that might not be a phrase that's useful, since it would eliminate special uses. Permitted uses is a term of art. Habitable space is broader in meaning because it incorporates special uses. So we might want a different phrase.
Mr. McGonigal?
I have no problem. The next item is on page 10. The second line at the top, it says floor area bonuses may not be granted for tandem parking spaces. This is where I may be showing my cultural ignorance, but I wasn't aware of what a tandem parking space was until Dominic explained it to me. So I'm wondering if I'm just the one lone individual or whether there is a better way of explaining that. Because the way that I actually read that was I looked at it as a handicap stall with the stripe zone in between and 2 parking spaces on either side, and he explained it to me as being something completely different.
I think it's a term of art. I first came across it in England.
I've ridden many tandems, but never in a parking space.
You've never been to San Francisco?
You just don't get around much, Andrew.
I'm getting old, I'm sorry. The next page, whole building sustainability. 2A, item 4 and 5. I think item 4 and 5 are actually out of sequence and should come in at item 2. Because if you look at the progression of how this should proceed, you don't want to go through and have it issued all the permits and then a letter of credit be granted. The letter of credit is obviously something that precedes all of the granting of permits. So you need to be in a position of being able to issue the permits with the right set of criteria.
Mr. Dunkley?
Yes, that makes sense, and we believe that change would be beneficial.
Okay.
Same page, item 5, item V1. The penalty to failure to submit a timely report is $500 per day from the due date. I was having difficulty with defining what the due date was, given that for a lead building, you wait a whole year before you actually have basically that documentation to submit. Then when does the fine come in? What is the day that you submit? And the suggestion that I made was that that date be something that is controllable by the city. And in my mind, that is the granting of the occupancy certificate. And I then had the difficulty that because you have to wait a whole year to submit, and you fail to get the necessarily lead point or the certification that you've got, that the onus of that having a $500 per day fine from the granting of the certificate of occupancy and having to wait 365 days, plus the review, I thought was too onerous. So I would have reduced down the amount of fine per day, but brought back to the occupancy certificate, which is controllable by the city, as the point that this documentation had to be submitted, or the fine would start if it didn't meet the criteria. So there had to be something tangible that was a reasonable measure that was not unwritten.
Mr. Dunkley? You want to think about that?
When you're talking about the document prepared, that's the submission for LEED's certification.
Correct.
I would assume that would be required before an occupancy permit would be given in this situation.
But you don't know what you're going to get until it's been reviewed and
You're
then
talking about the
approved.
document, though, that's being submitted for review.
You normally wait quite a period of time once the building is built before you actually submit for your leads. You don't get an occupancy permit and the next day submit for your LEED gold or silver or platinum. There's a time lag, and therefore you can't hold up an occupancy certificate until you've submitted all your documentation, because you're too busy finishing the building and progressing this thing forward to actually sit down and do all of that.
Craig?
There is a registration process that LEED requires you to go through while you're designing the building and under construction as well. So there is a component that could show reports generated from that prior to the actual certification component. LEED will issue those as the project goes on. So I think there's a middle ground here. Obviously, we can't wait 365 days from the actual occupancy of that building to the certification to start fining, but there are other reports that could help document the reasonableness of achieving a certain rating.
Seth, did you have something?
Well, I don't remember the complete I don't remember the conversation, but we did talk about this extensively in our last meeting of the zoning committee, the specific issue. I don't remember what we had decided, so I guess, if we had decided on that, I do agree, Andrew, that you probably do need a date certain that you're charging a fee from. So does anybody here recall where we left that conversation?
Scott?
I think you've illustrated a real problem. I don't think the answer is to reduce the fine, but to change the wording of the section on due dates. Not an easy task because we don't control the certification process. So it needs to be flexible enough so that when the certification process procedures change, we don't have to amend the ordinance. Probably this is one that we can commend to staff.
Mr. Dunkley?
I would recommend that. We'd like to focus on this in our coordinated staff review.
Okay, fine. Anything else on page 11? I do have a couple of things. On page 11, first paragraph A, 2A, is it necessary to have the word achievement, the last line in that paragraph? Right now it says a good faith commitment to achievement of the applicable sustainability level. Could we not just use the word achieve? It's a small matter, but could we not use that word? And the same thing with subparagraph I, 2AI, instead of achievement, use the word achieve. And then down to 4, it's an awkward sentence. It reads currently, a letter of credit acceptable to the city or other city-approved financial guarantee is required to ensure ultimate compliance with the required sustainability level. I would prefer to reword that in the following manner. A letter of credit or other city-approved financial guarantee acceptable to the city is required to ensure ultimate compliance. In other words, I would take the little phrase in the first line, acceptable to the city, And I would place it in a different spot in that sentence. So it would read a letter of credit or other city-approved financial guarantee acceptable to the city is required.
I would suggest you use the word guarantor, not guarantee, because it has to go back to an individual, an identifiable body.
The problem is letters of credit are not all equal. And so you want the city to be able to accept or reject forms of letters of credit as well as the other guarantee. Maybe you'll need it in twice.
Well, it strikes me as just the construction of it is, I want to identify a letter of credit or other city-approved financial guarantee, either of those two, acceptable to the city.
You could make it 2 sentences to accomplish that. Unambiguously.
Do you see what I'm saying, Bill, or not? You would like to see it stay as is?
I believe that in our last conversation regarding the different types of letters of credit, I think was what prompted us to change the text so that it did read a letter of credit acceptable to the city. So I actually find it more useful as stated.
Okay. We did exactly make that change in the zoning meeting.
Okay. Next one is the same subparagraph 4 where it says guarantee must be equal to extra development, and I would just put the word "the" in before the word "extra," so it reads guarantee must be equal to the extra development and construction. And in the next line where it reads costs estimated by the city to be required to achieve the required sustainability level, I would strike the first required and put in the word needed, so it then reads costs estimated by the city to be needed to achieve the required sustainability level. Minor thing. And then, sorry.
And obviously pagination on that part, right?
Yeah. And then further down in that same subparagraph, it says cities being allowed to draw fully upon the agreed upon the letter. That has to be reworded.
That's not the beginning of the sentence.
Okay, failure to attend the agreed upon level of sustainability within a reasonable time will result in the cities being allowed to draw fully upon the agreed upon the letter of credit. I mean, there's some too many words in there.
Yeah, you wouldn't call it the letter of credit, is what you're saying.
I'm saying strike the words upon the agreed, so it reads failure to attain the agreed upon level of sustainability within a reasonable time will result in the cities being allowed to draw fully upon the letter of credit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Wouldn't you say draw upon the financial guarantee or letter of credit? Since the financial guarantee may not be a letter of credit, maybe something else?
Well, that may be.
That's a good change.
Because we talk about
That's
either
another
or
change.
up above, and we probably should reference either or below.
Okay, so what are you proposing, Larry?
Agreed upon letter of credit or approved financial, of city-approved financial guarantee.
Yeah,
Something to that
good
effect.
idea. So it includes both,
So
whatever
yeah,
the
references
guarantee
both.
happens to be. Okay, good.
Let me ask a dumb grammatical question since we have so many experts. Why is there an apostrophe in the word cities? An apostrophe S.
Mr. Dunkley is our
Because
gerund.
you always use a possessive with a gerund.
Thank you.
Should not the word city in the third line from the bottom be capitalized?
I defer to our law department staff.
Okay.
I would
When
actually,
referring to the city of Evanston, we do, as a matter of course, capitalize city since it is a proper noun.
Okay, so we'll make that change. Right, okay.
I'd like to apologize for missing all of those items. I feel really badly now.
Altogether, we're in the same boat here. So, there's a lot of ground to cover, and it's important that we go through this line by line.
We still hold you in high esteem, just not as high as before. Okay?
I'm a little shorter today, I'm sorry. Page 13, inclusionary housing. Item 3B. What we do not list here is inclusionary housing in perpetuity, or is there a time frame? And if you go to the definition of office space, the affordable office space, we actually, under 4A2, limit the term in which that affordable office space exists. My question is, for inclusionary housing, is that the same term, or is that for a longer period, and how would we like to consider that?
Larry?
Aren't there some other areas of city code or city policy which have addressed that and have some standards already established?
The reference here to the city's inclusionary housing ordinance consists of Title IV, Chapter 17 of the City Code, and it went through extensive amounts of drafting both at the Planning and Development Committee and City Council level, and we think it's fairly exhaustively defined in there. All I would recommend here to make sure that things are clear is that we would refer to it. So when it says the city's inclusionary housing ordinance,
Yes.
as codified in Title IV, Chapter 17 of the City Code as amended.
Is that okay, Mr. Dunkley? Dominic?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Page 15, public park and open space improvements. Item 5A3. It talks about applicants making cash contributions. I would say that had to be done prior to any approval to build. It needs, I think, some teeth, that if a transaction is part of the approval process, then you need to have that in place prior to actually awarding approval.
Mr. Dunkley?
And it's our standard, and I agree that we can explicitly include it in here that building permit would not be issued unless all of the agreed upon actions were actually undertaken.
Okay, so you think that's a good change, good suggestion? Okay.
Do you want to lose the discretion to have an agreement with payment to be made subsequently?
I think we need to take that under consideration and really look at what our past practice has been.
And I can think of situations where you might want an enforceable agreement rather than the money at the front end.
It may come back, sorry.
That may make sense.
It may come back to your letter of credit or financial guarantee.
Yeah, or enforceable agreement,
Right.
in this case.
Yeah, I think the staff would like to take this one under consideration and bring you back something after internal discussion.
Mr. McGonigal?
I'm happy with that. Page 18, landmark preservation. Item 7A2. With such august legal minds here, I believe Preservation Commission should be capitalized.
Agreed.
And the same with, same page, last line, planning director. I assume his is a title or a capital. Those should be capitalized too.
Actually, staff's recommendation here is that this be changed to the Director of Economic and Community and Economic Development. Or his or her designee. That would also hold for the last sentence on page 19 as well.
That all makes sense.
The same page, page 18, item 7A4. The property owner of the landmark building receiving the funds must enter into an agreement with the Preservation Commission regarding the manner in which the funds will be used. I think there should be a time frame, a stipulation in there, and also an issue if those funds aren't used within an acceptable time frame.
Mr. Dunkley?
I believe that, wouldn't that normally be part of the agreement?
I don't know. We don't have an agreement yet. I would suggest that we're making the foundation for the agreement rather than leaving it out there for people to determine what is in the agreement.
Again, I think we would look towards any agreement to be in place by the time a building permit is issued.
Seth?
I do like a little more teeth in there. We've talked about that. How do we teeth on all of these issues? So I think that's a good idea.
I think the relevant time is prior to dispersal of the funds. I think the party to the agreement should be the city, and if you and the role of the Economic Development Commission would be use language like agreement with the city acceptable to the Preservation Commission.
I think that in general makes sense, but I think we'd like to discuss that internally.
Yeah.
And you want to capitalize Preservation Commission again?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Andrew?
The following page, streetscape and alley improvements, items 8A, 5, and 6. The same issue goes to that section there as we've just discussed.
Agreed.
Next.
Page 20, item 9, public plazas. I have the phrase time frame again, so that again just follows the last two pages.
Agreed.
Page 22, facade improvements. Item 10A4. Original building materials such as brick, stonework, terracotta, wood, masonry, metal cladding, repointing of brick and other masonry must be replaced or restored. I have added or would add the phrase where appropriate or needed. The way that it's written at the moment, it says, I think you have to do it and you have no option. If it's not necessary or needed, then why would we be entering that?
Agreed.
Item 6, the storefront or street-facing side of the building must be redesigned where appropriate. I used the word may instead of must. I think that perhaps has a little too much teeth and could be detrimental.
Yep. Staff agrees with this, and we, in fact, we've asked our the staff to the Preservation Commission, Carlos Ruiz, to look at this and give us some language that that solves that issue.
Page 23, item 13, three paragraphs down. Outdoor public art must be incorporated subject to conditions by the Plan and Preservation Commission. I'm not sure if it's the Plan and Preservation Commissions that govern outdoor art to start with. I thought we had our own art committee or commission. I can see the need to have the Plan Commission and the Preservation Commissions be part of that, but I think this is a little too nebulous. An outdoor public art is always that and open for criticism as to what constitutes art and what doesn't. So I'm a little concerned with who's governing it and what's being said. I wasn't quite sure how to phrase what I'm trying to. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say?
No.
It does, but it's going to require a lot of language to correct, no doubt.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure whether you're talking about the art, the piece of art, and the selection of that, or just in the plan where a piece of art would go, or what would be appropriate for a piece of art as seen by the Plan Commission or Preservation, depending upon who is where.
I think both issues need to be addressed. That if, as part of the proposal, and you're getting FAR or credits or money that you're going to benefit from, and you're saying, well, I'm going to put back a piece of art. Okay, I can go down to Will's garage down the corner and knock up some pieces of steel and weld it together and say it's art and just stick it on a plaza. Am I going to get money for that? I hope not. Am I going to have a place designated and incorporated? If I think of the space outside of the Chandler building, for instance, that could easily take a piece of art and could be part of the process. To put that art up and then select it, I'm not sure whether you allow the developer to select that and it's then approved by the art commission, or I'm not sure the term of the commission that oversees it. I know, for instance, when we did the fire station on Central Street, 3 submittals were made that the commission picked one that they wanted to put on the fire station, and there was a public process. What I'm concerned about is somebody's getting something from us, and we have no way to measure or understand the value of something that we're getting back in return.
Yeah, I think Stu's correct. It's going to take a lot of words because I think it's 2 separate issues. One is, should a piece of art be there, and if it should, approximately where, and then the other is, assuming that a piece of art is there, who is going to be the contributor from the city or from the art council or whoever to make sure it's a quality piece of art. It seems to me like those are 2 separate, probably 2 separate steps and 2 separate different discussions. So
there may be an additional problem with the whole section. I think it reads that all of these numbered items, Roman numeral items, must be provided, whether appropriate or not appropriate. And certainly there are sites where all of that's appropriate, and there are sites where only some of that's possible. So you might want to give yourself some discretion with respect to all that list.
And the intention, of course, was that not every project would not have to meet all of these.
Needs some wording change to reflect that.
Agreed.
A simple change could be at the end of subsection A. It says facade improvements must adhere to the following standards. If we just inserted the words "when applicable,"
that would do it.
Page 23, if I may continue. Floor area bonuses, again, I've added the phrase time frame.
Where is that, Andrew?
If you look at page 23, item B, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It talks about the increase in FAR that you can get and about the facade improvement funds. I was anticipating some kind of time frame related to the spending or receiving of those and actually fulfilling your obligations.
Dominic? Bill?
Yes, that's fine.
The
Okay.
timeframes we'll include in the overall look at all the other timeframes.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Mr. McGonigal.
We now make a large jump to page 33. Item 61141, second line. I would take out the word and replace it with a comma between office and retail.
Looks good to me.
Next page, 34. Under the sub-areas on the chart that we have, under DC2, and I know we spent many hours going through what was a permitted use and what was a special use, but the words commercial parking garage, about 7 lines down, under DC2 we have it listed as a special use. If we did that, that would take the city's major revenue generator of the parking garage on Maple into a non-conforming use currently. Is that something that we wanted to do? Or are we comfortable with it? I'm just asking that as a question, as that facility is already there.
I'm not troubled with the fact that it's a non-conforming use, but Mr. Dunkley? your
I
thoughts?
think the flip side of that we have to consider is what is the risk of allowing a commercial garage as a permitted use
Right, I agree.
by right?
I'm just raising it as a question. I'm not going either way.
One thing I could point out is that the only time when this would really become an issue is if the parking garage needed to be replaced. If it fell into such disrepair that the city would have to demolish and replace it. There is a provision in one of the general sections of the zoning ordinance that states that the city, pursuant to a resolution passed by the city council, may essentially exempt a city-built and funded facility from certain restrictions placed in the zoning ordinance. So if and when it came to the point when it was necessary to do so, the council could pass a resolution. The last time we did this was for Fire Station 5. I believe we exempted it from certain setback requirements in order to make sure we could build the fire station that we needed.
So it stands?
Just one word of caution, having worked for an institution that had several major parking structures that did not, during the lifetime of one of its structures, earmark funds that were reserved, that were taken as money from that structure. It was reapportioned elsewhere within the institution. So when it came time to actually repair it, there were no funds there to do said. So it's an interesting circle. That's all I
That does sound like an institutional problem, not a zoning problem, though.
I would like to now conclude my comments. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any comments? I have one further one on page 12. At the top, it's on paragraph 4, all penalties collected. This is in regard to the bond that is, or the guarantee, the letter of credit, whatever. All penalties collected will contribute to a city-administered fund dedicated to supporting market adoption of green building. Didn't we talk about this? And didn't we decide that we didn't want to pin this down?
Yes.
Yes.
And it was just a problem, unnecessary problem created for the city.
I believe I believe we agreed to generalize the language.
I mean, without specifying exactly where this money was going to end up, we know it was going to go to the city, but, so let's straighten that one out, huh? Good. Anything else, gentlemen? Are there any citizens that would like to comment on anything we've discussed tonight? Jessica, you have nothing to say? Okay, anybody else? Yes, come forward. State, would you step over there, please?
We're here.
No, no, I was told that that was the microphone to be used.
So they can see the camera.
Ah.
Is this being televised?
So the
This
camera. See them, not so they can see.
Okay, fine. Just state your name and your address, please.
Certainly. I'm Diane Lacroix. I live at 1219 Greenwood Street. And I'd like to start by thanking everybody who put so much time into this. I had a standing third Wednesday meeting, so I couldn't come to the meetings of the subcommittee, but you guys obviously put a ton of thought into this. Lots of work went into it. And I think my comments are not so much about the actual form-based coding that's in here, but I was hoping to come tonight to hear a little bit more about decisions made about the development review process. It seems to me like there are some significant changes in here. Evanston is used to being able to come together and talk about any development over 24 residential units. And when I looked through the discussion, it seems that when public benefits are requested, the city council comes into play and has to approve the bonuses that come along with those public benefits. I think that's fabulous, and I think the way that you flesh those out are really good. But the other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that a building in the downtown core that is, say, over 110 feet but not requesting public bonuses is simply approved by the Plan Commission. Is that correct? And the Plan Commission is the deciding body, and I didn't see anything here about an appeal process above and beyond that. I was wondering if I'm understanding that correctly and what the rationale is behind that.
You're correct. Anything over 110 feet that doesn't ask for bonuses comes to the Plan Commission. Now, the rationale, perhaps, Bill, you could expand on that a little bit? It's a tall building. We wanted to have something to say about it.
Oh, yes, indeed.
And that's the reason it will come initially before the Plan Commission.
So it's no longer the case that we're going to have things that can be built by right that turn out to be sort of surprises. Is that what we're trying to avoid by doing it that way?
Mr. Widmeyer, let me call on you to answer that question.
The idea behind that is that if a building is large enough, even though it is by right, there will be a review with the community. Now, that doesn't mean it can be rejected, but it does mean that there are changes that can be suggested and work its way through that process with the community. But unlike a planned development, it's not something that can just be ceremoniously rejected either.
All right, that's when I saw the overview document that said planned developments will be prohibited from all downtown districts. Planned developments still go on outside the downtown area, is that correct, for anything over 24 units?
Yes, that's correct.
But in deciding against planned developments, you're substituting the form-based code for that kind of community debate. And it's not the case that this body will be able to reject, is that correct? It's not the case that this body would be able to reject a development over 110 feet but not requesting public benefits, bonuses.
That's right. The Plan Commission, I don't believe, has the authority to reject the proposal just because it's over 110 feet and they're not asking for any bonuses. But we want to have our say, and we want the public to weigh in on this, and hopefully it would have some influence on the developers' plans.
With all respect, it It is intended that the Plan Commission can reject based upon noncompliance with the standards for major developments. A development in the downtown core that is over 110 feet or over an FAR of 3.0.
Oh, if it doesn't comply with the standards.
That's correct.
Right.
Right, but then theoretically, it wouldn't come before you at all if it wasn't in compliance with the standards, right? It wouldn't get
Yes,
that.
it certainly could, yes.
Okay. Let's see.
But if they meet the standards, then, we don't have the authority to reject it if it's over 110 feet.
There's no capricious rejection, no.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And not only is there no capricious rejection, but there's no ability to give something extra, which you had with the plan development review. So the standards both serve as a basis for accepting and then also limit what the bodies can do in granting additional special things for special developments.
Okay. Well, I'm all for reducing caprice. That sounds great. I do know that Evanstonians are used to being able to come in and weigh in and have their opinion count. So I think that when you make these kinds of changes, it is important to give notice and to have people look at the text amendment and the map amendment, not just for the zoning code as it's going to be developed and applied, but also for the process, so that everybody understands that the process here is changing a little bit. And then I wanted to understand under the public benefits bonus process, when a developer comes and asks for public benefits, that comes first here to the Plan Commission, and the Plan Commission is going to make the recommendation to the City Council about whether those public benefits are met?
That's my understanding, yes.
It comes here first.
There's a hearing on those, on the requests for increased FAR.
Okay. When I looked at the ancillary text amendments in section 6315, what the Plan Commission does, the additional item was E, approves or disapproves any application for a major development in the downtown core district. But I didn't see it specifically saying handling the public benefits discussion. Did I miss that?
I believe it's LaCroix?
LaCroix, yeah.
Brings up a very good point, and that needs to be added. That is an additional capability of the Plan Commission to receive applications for public benefits bonuses and pass a recommendation on to the City Council.
Right, because it seemed otherwise it was going through the zoning administrator, and I didn't see it stopping here before going to the City Council.
Thank you for actually reading this section.
You're very welcome. There's a reason I came to your office to get this. And then the only other thing that I had a question about, and it could be that the text amendment actually in my hand may or may not be the latest version, but if I look at the back of the map, it's got the proposed RD2 height with bonuses at 100 feet. And in the text amendment I have, it has 110 feet. So I want to make sure that the two match. And I wasn't sure whether it's 100 or 110.
That's an error.
The maximum public benefit height.
Give us just a moment.
Sure.
That is a typo. It should be 110.
The 110 is the height.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right. And I guess my final question, as I was looking through this very handy chart, thank you, Mr. Dunkley, was...
All credit goes to Mr. Sklenar for that.
Oh, excellent. Is an FAR of 12, it seems so much higher than anything that was allowed before. Is that due primarily to changing the allowed heights of the building, or is there something else there about density in terms of the bulk of the building. I just don't have a good feel for FAR of 12. Does that make us feel more like Chicago? Does that, what does that mean?
That is, it's not insignificant. However, I would defer to the members of the Plan Commission who were in the thick of the deliberations on that particular item.
Bill, what else got redefined? Is the parking treated the same way?
There is a change in the definition of FAR in that it does not include floors of parking, whereas that's handled differently throughout the rest of the city. So the FAR, a lower FAR would be in downtown would be equivalent to a somewhat higher FAR elsewhere in the city. So, but that just lends a little more credence to the question. An FAR of 12, where that seems maybe a slight anomaly in terms of how high it is. What was the genesis of that?
Well, we've been at this now for almost 5 years, and I must confess I don't recall the discussion on that particular item. Do any members of the commission recall that?
I don't remember exactly on this, but I know when we talked about the FAR versus the height, we also took into consideration the setbacks that are required at various height levels, which just by their nature reduce the magnitude of the building. And there was a lot of discussion and some calculation and a few things done by some of the architects that came up with that number, and I really don't remember exactly what they were because it does go back, I think that's in the plan as well as, but I do remember there was a lot of discussion about setbacks, and you can't build just a wall 12 feet, 300 feet high.
It's not completely out of, it's not an unreasonable FAR. It is a high FAR, but it's the highest.
The other piece, that you need to think about for the downtown is the portions of downtown which are built to the lot line, right to the sidewalk. And that would lead to a higher FAR for the downtown, with the bulk being controlled by the other setback requirements for upper floors.
Okay. I mean, this is not my background, and so when I saw, FARs for the current code being, the high end being at 6 or 7.5, when I saw 10 and 12, I was wondering how one would know whether this is going to allow very bulky buildings.
I wasn't here for the hearing, but when I think about the character of the downtown, where we would not want individual buildings to have setbacks, but be built consistent with the surrounding buildings, it would lead to a higher FAR. And then the other bulk controls ensure reasonable design.
All right, so the combination of the setbacks with the FAR are going to make buildings that don't look like.
Yeah, I have not done the calculations, but that's the control scheme.
But the zoning changes for the setbacks are the same as they were for downtown before. So you would have taken that into account, correct?
There have been some changes.
There are changes.
I think it's important to keep in mind that this plan is a compromise and a means of really accommodating where we are currently, which is in many cases a potentially unlimited upside on any zoning regulation, meaning there is really no maximum FAR that above which the council cannot award, and so we've seen discussions happening in a very high FAR range, and this is an attempt to cap that FAR. There will be no FAR greater than what's in this plan with bonuses, period. With the fact that right now our FARs may be well contained in the code, but there is that ability to exceed. And I think that the attempt was to try and include an absolute maximum that was still within reason.
Do you have a copy of the downtown plan? I presume you do.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
So you can see the step backs at various levels.
I haven't revisited the actual plan. I was busy with the amendment itself. So, again, I think you guys have done really hard work here, and you've addressed a lot of our concerns. I'll be interested to see how it goes the first time, a project comes up under new guidelines that may be adopted, and that will be fascinating to see. Thank you. Thanks very much.
By the way, the plan commission is 2 members short,
Absolutely.
and I've spoken to the mayor about this. Chuck Staley just stepped down. No, and then so we need 2 more members on the plan commission. So if anyone is interested, you might inquire.
If you'd like one of us to put you in for a recommendation. I was going to say that. Why don't you talk to me on Dewey Playground?
Okay, is there anything else on this agenda item? Then Craig, you're next up. Bill, did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, that's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Craig?
Good evening. In front of you is yet again one more iteration of the comprehensive plan timeline with our work plan plugged into it. Through some consideration, we've boiled down the timeline a little bit. We removed a couple months out of the work plan because of the update scenario now instead of the full-scale comprehensive plan effort originally adopted. And as you see, we should be starting to work, and I have started doing some research, but we do need help putting together market analysis, trend analysis for the city. And that's where the subcommittee and the working group need to come in. If you remember, months ago, I had established a memo with job descriptions. One was called a working group that involved professionals that live in the city of Evanston that can donate 10 to 20 hours of their time each month to the comprehensive plan. This is helping us do research, write white papers that would be components of the comprehensive plan, help establish goals and objectives for the comprehensive plan, and help facilitate some of the meetings with stakeholder groups as well. I call again to Plan Commission members to help out with that component of this. I will be sending out this memo again to you. So if you know of anybody, please put them in contact with me. We're looking for people anywhere from demographic analysis, real estate market, trend analysis, transportation planners, urban designers, sustainable designers, planning, urban planners, water resource management, asset managers, anything that deals with
You've left off the lawyers.
No, I didn't.
On purpose.
So we need to formalize our subcommittee group with those components that aren't sitting here in front of us today.
Scott is our chair, and I would expect that you and he will probably be talking about this soon.
We have talked about it, and that's why I'm bringing it.
As recently as 7 this morning. We also need a time when the subcommittee can meet. I'd suggest the 4th Wednesday because many people have kept their Wednesdays open. But we're going to begin to meet probably on a monthly basis. So we need a subcommittee, and then we need a working committee.
Who among us currently are on the committee? Mr. Steele, are you on the? If you would like to be, let Mr. Peters know, all right? Seth, are you on it?
I've been on it. I don't know if I can commit 4 Wednesdays a month to the city because I'm currently doing 3.
Okay. Mr. Scher, are you on the committee? Yes. Okay. Larry? as
Mr.
a-
Meyer
I thought
and
we had a
Galloway.
conversation about doing this after our plan commission meetings to cut back on the number of evenings we have to commit to.
It was considered, but I feel as the plan rolls on, this will take up a full amount of time that a plan commission meeting will, if not more. And we need to ensure that whatever date or day that we set will help facilitate those conversations.
Let's try to do it in the alternative. If it's a small amount of time, or the plan commission is a small amount of time, we'll put it on the same night.
Might I propose, too, that the zoning committee of the plan commission, would that be continuing once the downtown zone is fully approved?
You know, that's a good question. What does the long-term zoning agenda look like? Mr. Dunkley, who is no longer here, probably could help us in that regard. But we pretty much cleaned up the zoning
No,
code, haven't we?
there will be occasional amendments, but probably not anything like.
Something we could do at plan commission and not its own separate meeting?
Gee, I don't know about that, but I'm quite sure that the zoning committee is going to have some free time going in the next 6-8 months.
So we could use that date.
So maybe we could use that date, the zoning committee date.
Shall we just tentatively for now put that in as our
Okay.
meeting date?
Is that all right, gentlemen?
That's fine with me then.
Mr. Steele, are you on the zoning committee? No. You're going to want to get on that. I mean, that's really at the heart of what we do. A lot of zoning stuff. So, I think it's important for all commissioners to spend at least a couple of years on the zoning committee. I've been on it 5 years, 5.5 years, and I've learned a lot. And it takes a few years to get up to speed. So let me encourage you to sign on to that committee.
Correct me if I'm wrong, is the meeting next week, or is it the week before plan commission? So it's next week? I'll coordinate with Mr. Dunkley if
It's
there-
the night before Thanksgiving, though, isn't it?
No,
Oh, it's not. No,
we have-
no. That's 2 Wednesdays.
great.
Right. Okay.
So we may have a meeting then, I will know tomorrow.
So next Wednesday, then tentatively for.
Tentatively, that makes sense.
Okay, let's do that. 7 o'clock. Yeah.
And my guess is the working group will probably, since it's professionals, many of whom are not on the plan commission, probably it'll need to meet early in the morning to accommodate people's schedules.
Okay. Anything else, Craig?
That's it.
Okay. Committee reports. Anyone? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.